Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Short Stories with Friends. I am joined by my friend Michael Flack here. He's going to be talking about his biz a little bit and help me read his story. Got another great show for you tonight, so stay tuned. I got a special announcement that I'll maybe too excited to wait till the end, but I'll try. But anyways, I've got a great show for you tonight. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. And I want to introduce my friend. I just want to get started in this interview right now. All right, and we are back. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks
You
for
like
having
Michael
me.
or Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either one. Mike's easier. Let's go with Mike.
I'm kind of the same way. I go by Antonio Garcia with my books and stuff, but everybody knows me as Tony.
Yeah,
but
I know you as Tony.
I have some friends and stuff. They're like specifically Michael,
right,
right, or Mike, depending on never Mikey. No, I never had anybody that's like I prefer Mikey, but
I was Mikey till I was about maybe 10 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was Antoine in French class, so everybody has have different names and everything else. You might hear some off-screen laughing. We got a studio audience with us tonight, so I don't have to use a laugh track. What I do is I bring in friends with the promises of bourbon and cigars, and I have them sit in the crowd. Their whole job is just to laugh at our bad jokes. So exactly. It works out from time to time. All right, so Michael, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to be here. So I'm Michael Flack, Mike Flack. I own a video production studio here in the Dayton, Ohio area, based in Centerville. We are called Flack Productions Creative Video LLC. We specialize mostly in live event videography. So the bulk of our work is weddings, also a lot of corporate events. Do a lot of work with Procter & Gamble down in Cincinnati. That kind of keeps my weekdays nice and busy, and then weddings on the weekends. But then we also do all kinds of other video projects. Yesterday I was in Trotwood with the fire department there, and we shot all day at 3 or 4 different locations. Just they've done a lot of work to get them kind of remodeled and refreshed, showing off
kind of like a virtual tour.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, a lot like that, and a lot of their new fleet as far as trucks and ambulances, things like that.
I'll have his links below too, so you definitely check out. Now you have a Facebook page. Do you have a website or any other social media that you're on?
I do. So my website is simply flackproductions.com.
Nice.
And then Instagram is @flackproductions.
Perfect.
So yeah, you can check me out there. Lots of video examples. One way or another, I think I post everything that we make.
Okay.
On at least one of those platforms. So.
Okay. Very nice. Now, how long has Flack Productions been in business?
So Flack Productions became official in like late 2015. I still had a day job for a little while, and then early 2016 I was able to leave the day job and make Flack Productions my full-time job.
That's kind of a goal of a lot of people that are entrepreneurs. It's like, me as a writer, I see it as kind of like planting seeds. Like hopefully at some point I make enough money that could be my full-time career. But there, until then, a lot of artists and things just have to kind of stick with that full-time job. So the fact that you can kind of go out and have your own business is great. So, and does your wife assist you? Like his wife is really cool, by the way. Well, does she?
Well, yeah. I know
she's a nurse, so she's got her own career.
Correct. Yeah, she's got her own career, but she was instrumental in me being able to quit the day job. She actually encouraged me to do that.
Yeah, and that's important.
That's very important, that kind of support. So she helps me mostly on the advertising side, like when we do our trade shows, bridal shows, things like that. She'll go out with me and help promote the business.
Very nice.
She has gone to a couple wedding shoots with me. That's not her thing.
Yeah.
She's
I mean, I'm the same thing. I'm an artist too, so it's like I used to have a martial arts school and personal training. It's like they help you as much as they can, but really it's your vision, your work and
exactly, And she's just like, I don't know how you do this. Well, I look at her job, I'm like, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
So it's just everybody's got their own thing, but But yeah, overall she's very, very helpful. Every video that once I get to the end of the edit process, before I send it to the client, she watches everything just to get a second set of eyes on it.
That's all. Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah.
For me, I use like beta readers, and it really comes in handy to kind of get that second set of eyes.
Right. Yeah.
You're in the work so much a lot of times.
Exactly. You just see right past some of the errors you may have made. So. Yeah.
So let's talk about a little bit about the editing process. So, any kind of specific software that you use? Like I use Adobe products just because it's all in one package and stuff, but I'm not like a professional. So I don't know if you use Adobe or do you have your own?
I do. I use Adobe, the Creative Cloud Suite. So Premiere is the main video editing platform, and then I use some Photoshop for graphics and After Effects for motion graphics. Use a couple of other programs for very minor little graphic projects like InDesign. I made like my pricing brochure in that application, but yeah, Adobe products. I've been considering. There's a video editing software called DaVinci Resolve.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are switching to. I'm just kind of scared of change. I've been using Premiere for so long now. Like learning something brand new is kind of intimidating to me. But from what I've heard, people are saying you'll thank yourself later. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Is that, I can't remember. I think that might be like an open source thing to where people can like add their own plugins and stuff too.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes it nice. I mean, there's a reason why like a lot of creative people like that's open source type products, because there's a lot more customization. There's a lot more. It's kind of like WordPress or Linux. It's like there's so much customization you can do with it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Now let's talk some equipment too. So what's like? I know you use what the camera's called. It's just like everybody uses
DSLR.
DSLR, yes.
Yeah. So I use a combination of DSLR and mirrorless. Mirrorless is now starting to become a little bit more of the trend, and less DSLR. So I shoot with Canon cameras, and within the industry, there's people who are kind of like, are you Mac or are you PC? Are you Canon or are you Sony or are you Nikon or?
Well, I'm in IT, so I definitely have my my teams I stick with.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I shoot Canon. I have a mirrorless Canon called the R5. That camera's been out for probably close to 2 years now, but it's a really powerful mirrorless camera.
Yeah.
And then my kind of backup camera, or my B camera, is a Canon 1DX Mark II. That one is considered a DSLR.
Okay.
It's a big kind of workhorse camera, but they both take amazing video and photos. I don't really do much photography, just to get that out there, but they're both great for photo and certainly for video.
Yeah, definitely take a look at his social media too, because he posts a lot of behind the scenes, which is really kind of cool. Because a lot of times you see the finished product, like right here, you're kind of seeing what I want you to see in the video and stuff, but they don't see the dirty laundry over here, or the dishes in the back, or the flies flying around over there. They don't see any of that.
Yeah, they don't get to see that.
Yeah, so it's nice to have some of the behind the scenes pictures, because you can really see like a lot of the chaos that goes on behind the scenes. Things like that.
Yeah, I like to show, behind the scenes stuff, and like you can see where the lights are. Like you have lights right now, but watching can see the lights.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So I just like to show that, so people can just get another view of what it is we do. That
one thing that's kind of cool about being here with these lights, speaking of those, is that it's actually pretty dark in here, but on the camera it actually looks like it's pretty bright.
I was checking that out as we were setting up. I'm like, man, it looks a lot brighter on the screen than
I've gone too bright before. I've had like too many lights. I've got like the kit came with like multiple lights and focus lights and stuff, and sometimes it was just too much. Like there was like dark shadows over here and stuff. It was like basically like a spotlight, and like the guests would come on. They're like, and so I really like painting because it's it's fun. But then I found that like the softer lights it works just well. Too.
Yeah, that looks good. That looks really good.
What was I going to ask? Yeah, I had something on the tip of my tongue as far as so another thing I noticed you started getting into too is like almost. Like stories of people's lives. Like I've noticed that even like friends of ours have like asked, like I really want to start trying to capture the essence of like people's stories and stuff. And I saw that you started getting into some of that. What kind of like maybe one that kind of led to that, but also how does that compare? I mean, obviously weddings are a happy day, almost like their own stage production.
Sure.
But I would imagine hearing people's life stories can be pretty moving too.
Yeah, it really is. Lately, I've been picking up these kinds of projects, and they've been really eye opening. So, for example, I've done 2 of these in like the last month, where I interview a set of grandparents, and they just talk about their life stories, their lives growing up, and then their lives once they met and became married, and all that stuff, and they want their grandkids to be able to watch it once they're gone. Mm-hmm. The most recent one I did, the grandfather is a Korean War vet. He's 90 years old.
Wow.
So he's got all kinds of interesting stories to tell. And his wife, Grandma, I think she's 83. And she grew up on a farm in like South Dakota. So it's just how she lived. So it's really, they aren't even my family, and I was so intrigued by their story. So I can only imagine what it's gonna be for their grandkids and great grandkids, because actually they are both great grandparents by now.
Yeah, I as a writer, I get actually approached a lot to like do biographies. I got to, because I find everybody interesting. And there's some people I've come across that have lived really interesting lives. Mine, I would like to think mine's interesting, but in comparison to some of the people I've talked to, is like, pretty down the straight. Even though I've taken some risks as far as business wise and had some adventures, but I think the hard part is that it can be expensive to have a writer write your life story, or it can be daunting task for a person to to write their own story. But I think this is a nice medium that I think a lot of people are going to start moving towards. Like, hey, you want to tell your life story, it's like, instead of trying to do it in book form, as a biography or something that will just blend in with a lot of between Lincoln and Washington, you probably won't get read much, but having these videos where you can tell some of your life stories and stuff, it's probably a great way to kind of and they're going to the right people instead of just writing a book hoping that some stranger will want to hear about your life. Here you got that's actually going on for family. It's something that can be passed down generation to generation.
Absolutely,
like, here's your great grandfather, and his take and the story. So I definitely can see a future in that sort of thing where people want to pass on their memories and stuff. So it was that kind of like a natural progression. Like, how did I even get approached as far as somebody coming over like, hey, it's like videotape my grandparents, or they with a couple telling you themselves.
So for the one I just mentioned, this is a client of mine who I've done a lot of video work for. He actually owns Wild Axe Throwing and Great Escape games.
Oh, nice.
Out in Beaver Creek.
Yeah, been there.
And I've made several videos for him, and he had recently lost a grandparent on the other side of his family, and so it kind of came to him to want to do this while these 2 grandparents are still sound mind and body and in pretty good health. So he wanted to make that happen, soon. And the other one that I did, she's been a friend of mine, a former coworker of mine from about 20 years ago. I actually filmed her wedding. She was actually the very first wedding I filmed under Flack Productions. And unfortunately, her parents both got some unfortunate health news.
Right.
So and she just had a baby that's 3 or 4 months old.
Devastating.
She's got a 2-year-old, and so she said, "Hey, can we do this? Because I just don't know how much time we have left with my parents." So she wanted to do that for her kids, for their grandparents. So
and I think that's a great alley to go in, because I tell you what, one of my biggest sadnesses really of my dad. I was real close to my dad, and my whole family idolized my father. I don't have anything with his voice on it. I think there's like a VH tape somewhere where we did like a Star Trek video once at Universal Soldiers, and he had studios, and he had like one line. But I have lots of pictures. I have hundreds of pictures, but nothing with his voice, nothing with his body movements. I feel like, man, this is a great opportunity for people who. Even if you don't do it yourself for your kids, but your kids are like, hey, my parents are not going to be around forever. I really should capture, their essence now while I can.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, how much would that mean to you if you could, anytime you want to just hear your dad's voice?
Just go back and play. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And that's actually kind of one of my motivations for doing these kind of like podcasts and stuff. Is it's like don't know, a little gnat's flying.
Little
It's your
gnat.
wine.
It's my wine.
It's
Yeah,
your
like-
wine. But yeah, it's like I do these podcasts, you know, to kind of have like video history of myself, not just for
Yep.
you know the fact of writing and stuff, but actually that you know, after I'm gone, people can go back and they can hear my voice and my stories. They can see my podcast, stuff like that. So I think that's kind of a important thing. But yeah, I'm sorry. I think you're starting down on that road too.
Well, yeah, to kind of round that out, it's just it's one of those, you know, it's kind of hard to think about. You don't want to think about, you know, mortality, but at the same time, you know, give that some thought, because all of a sudden one day it might be too late. Whether this loved one, you know, passes away, or if they're just not able, if they're not in a good space to where you want to remember them in that way. So it's just something to really consider, you know, giving some serious thought to.
Absolutely. Well, let's kind of transition now to the business, because you know, it's very difficult. You know, you've had previous experience working for a company that actually did this, and like many of us that, you know, may work for a creative company and stuff, you start, you know, having ideas or wanting to do things your way. Directors do the same thing, you know, kind of step on their own, and videographer stuff. Like what like let's go back to like hindsight 2020, things that you wish maybe you would have done differently, or things you did right that, you know, you think that everybody should, you know, do. We got some people out here that I'm sure they're like wanting to become photographers, videographers, or just entrepreneurs, like, but they don't have no idea like first steps. So let's say, hey, I want to do videography. It's my passion is capturing. You know, what kind of advice could you give for that?
Yeah, so if we're going to talk specifically right now about videography or even photography, it's pick up a camera and just start shooting. Whatever it is. You're probably going to need to shoot some things for free for a while, because you have to have a portfolio. That's the only way you can sell yourself, is with a portfolio. So if you have family members that need, you know, some video work done, or you can, you know, go to some local businesses, small businesses that say, hey, I'm trying to get my portfolio built. Can I shoot a promo video for you for free? And that's how you get experience, and that's how you get your portfolio started. And then just slowly over time, you'll start charging, and then you'll start charging more, and then you'll start charging more. Before you know it, people are seeking you out.
Right.
And then that's when you can, you know, you can make your price, what you really truly deserve. And if somebody, you know, can't pay that price, that's fine, but then they're just not your client.
Right.
So I would just say follow the steps. Just start shooting, start filming, and getting your portfolio built up. Once you have some work in there that you're proud of, put it out there and start promoting yourself.
Yeah. Even as a writer, I can agree with that, because that's one thing is like I always try to tell, because I run into a lot of potential, you know, writers, people who want to get into writing. They see that I'm writing, like, oh, and they see like when you do something, they think it's a daunting task. Like I just got into like, you know, I've been doing coding for a while, software development. I'm starting to get into game development this year, and I've, you know, kind of like followed some tutorials, filling some code. And I show some people some code, and they're just overwhelmed.
I would be, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, I don't even understand. It's like a different language. I'm like, you know what? Well, here's the tutorial I followed. You know, it's 3 hours long, which seems like a long time, but you walked me through making this game with these graphics in 3 hours. I'm like, follow the tutorial and see.
Yeah.
When it comes to writing, I say, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, it's not about making the money, especially initially. A writer is a person who writes. So if you want to like be recognized as a writer, you have to start writing.
Absolutely.
You know, not talk about writing or talk about being published or talking about what's going to happen when you finally get published. Write. That's like step one. I think that's you know, very good tips with that. So any like, is there any like things you did right or things you did wrong that you know, that you probably you'd want to?
Let's see. Things I did wrong. I'm sure there's plenty. So, well, once you've gotten yourself established to a certain degree, you need to figure out who your clientele is, and not just take every project that comes your way.
Yeah, that's can be difficult for some people.
That can be really difficult. In the very, very beginning, take everything that you can. Absolutely. And that's how you'll learn that this might not be for you.
Right.
You know, this direction. So, no offense to realtors, but real estate video is not for me.
Right.
I tried it. I don't enjoy doing it. It doesn't interest me, and it doesn't really pay according to what I need. You know, to make a living. If I were to make money off of it, I would need to do a lot of it. And as I just said, I don't really enjoy it. So, you know, try to find your niche. Try to find projects that really interest you. So that would be one thing. Another thing, and you mentioned it a moment ago, is I would say you mentioned YouTube tutorials. Man, like the world we live in today, you can learn how to do anything you want to do just by Googling it and going to the YouTube video. So we're on a live stream now. I taught myself how to live stream during the worst of the COVID lockdown.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do any of this shit. This is all from like YouTube tutorials and recommendations, and from the microphone to the stream deck, everything.
Absolutely, everything, all of it. Yeah, because there's so much out there now, and you can learn it, and you might surprise yourself like how quickly you can pick up on the stuff without like a direct instructor or like a college course or something like that. You know, it's all right there, and it's free learning. Like so.
Yeah, I got back in IT. I mean, I have a degree like an associate's from Vacant in the late '90s, and and that's really electronics, but it's irrelevant compared to today's technology. I pretty much got started from where I'm at and to where I'm at now from watching YouTube videos. There's a Professor Messer on YouTube who's like real big into A+ and Network Plus, Security Plus certifications. Went through his videos, just watched the videos, took the test, and boom, got my A+. Started doing help desk stuff, and then out of necessity, got my Security Plus. But I did it from watching videos, and then took my test for that. So some careers you don't even have to, really go to school for. Why put yourself in debt unless it's required in your field? Obviously, if you're a doctor, you go to school to learn on YouTube, But there's a lot of you're a pilot, something like that, something like that, where you're going to be like responsible for other people's lives, But if you want to have a career like videography and coding and IT, really, why put yourself in debt? I'd be paying off my student loan for the rest of my life. Is like I would prefer not to have had that debt had I known then what was coming in the near future. But like most people coming now, it's like learn. It's like if you want to write, there's so many tutorials
out there.
I self-publish. I do my own graphic design. I learned how to do all that on YouTube. So absolutely, that's a huge resource. And of course, follow people that are in your field. Like if you want to be a videographer, follow guys like him. There's also Tim Gillian, who works for like the Dayton.org and stuff, and he takes a lot of pictures. I used to be friends with him. Well, I'm still friends with him, but I mean, I used to run into him like at concerts and at shows, and now he does a lot of photography type art because he's kind of built a name for himself. There's a couple people I follow. They're just like over the years have gotten really good, and the people that are successful like to share their knowledge. They turn it around. They like to give back. It's you're not competition. You're a peer.
Yeah, you're a peer. There's plenty of work to go around.
And there's so much to go around. Whether it be photography or IT, there's like so many areas, so many opportunities out there. And just that the ones you're kind of moving into are really good. But there may be someone who likes like real estate or recording building stuff. Well, that can expand into corporate type recordings spaces. There's a guy on YouTube that I watch from every time and then who goes to these multi-million-dollar houses and gives tours. I'm sure that probably started his love of just houses and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
So so absolutely, and definitely take a look at Michael Flack's social medias. He has a lot of good behind the scenes. Let's watch some of his videos and stuff on there, and we hope to see some more work coming out of you soon.
Yep, you will.
And you ready to get into the story?
Let's get into the story.
All right, now it's time for the boring. I'm just kidding. It's actually a pretty interesting story, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more after this first commercial. So let's go ahead and get into some self promotion, and then we'll come back and read my story, Vacant. All right, and we are back. And actually, I'm gonna. You want to run across? I'll wait till he comes back in. our audience,
studio audience,
needed another drink after that interview. Over here, he's nursing a wine. Over here, and me, I'm about ready to. But see, I was smart. I actually bring my whole bourbon. It's gonna crawl. At least peek your head up and say hi. Oh, no one can see you.
Oh,
there he is. There he is. Oh, we got. You know what? We're gonna make that like a little thing. He's like, you see the time that little he came across? He's Irish, so it's like, hey, finally saw a leprechaun or a leprechaun's ass. I think that was a little bit of his ass. But our studio audience is now back in a seat. We're gonna get into our story. I might have to tap off here in a little bit. It's mostly Michael's going to be doing the narration. This is my story, Vacant. I forgot where I got the idea. I think I've always been a big fan of the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, okay.
1970s one with Kiefer Sutherland's father. Donald Sutherland. Yes, the whole train thing. It was I grew up on that. I just used to watch it over and over again. So I've always liked the Invasions of the Body Snatchers. So of course I got to do a homage. Cool. To that. So, but yeah, so you're going to be doing the narration. I'll be doing the voices, so you guys get to hear my sexy lady's voice here in a minute. So I'm going to save it. Stay tuned. But all right, let me go. I'm going to pour another drink while you start reading. And then...
all right.
Wet my lips a little bit.
Here we go with Vacant. Tiffany couldn't quite place it, but there was something off about Alan. They had been married for over a decade, and she thought she knew all of his idiocracies, but apparently... he had developed some new ones that she wasn't aware of. At first, she thought maybe something had happened at work that upset him. But when she asked him about it, he said everything was fine. She became increasingly worried when one night she found him sleepwalking. She had once heard that it could be dangerous to wake a sleepwalker, and not to do it unless they were in danger. So when she had found him, she only followed him to ensure he didn't injure himself. He had walked out of the house, having no difficulty opening the door or walking down the stairs. If it hadn't been for the fact that it was the middle of the night, she wouldn't have put much thought into him wandering around.
Real quick, I was like, idiocracies. Did he pronounce that wrong or I spelled it wrong? I wrote it wrong. It's supposed to be idiosyncrasies. I don't even know if idiocracies is a word, but you know what?
It is now.
I'm the writer, so it's a word now. I'm like, I heard that. I'm like, is that right? It is. Too late. It's already been published.
Oh, wow.
So next time you read, Volume 1, you come across Vacant. Just remember, idiocracies is supposed to be idiosyncrasies. Continue.
Continuing. All right. She continued to follow him as he walked further from the house, heading towards the barn. Instead of going inside, he walked around it, heading off into the cornfield. She was about to say, hell with it, and wake him up. When she was about 50 yards into the field, he stopped walking and looked up into the sky. After a few minutes of just staring, he lowered his gaze, did an about face, and then began walking back towards the house.
And real quick, all of you that have been watching my previous episodes, you probably know what I'm about to say. I really got to add some lights back here. It's dark to read, isn't it?
Oh.
I'm okay. Reading. I'm straining. I'm like, I say this every week too, and I still don't do it. One of these weeks I will get a light, or even
lamp to...
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get headlamps, just to put on, and just have it on my own paper, blind the camera. All right, sorry.
All good.
I'm really good at interrupting people. That's what I do.
Tiffany didn't know what about his behavior was frightening her, but she instinctively hid deeper in the field until he passed her. He didn't seem to notice her at all, and she followed him back into the house. Once he had arrived in the bedroom, he kicked off the slippers he was wearing and crawled into bed like he did every night. The whole experience left Tiffany weirded out, and she couldn't sleep the rest of the night. She could only stare at him as he slept and wonder what had led him into the cornfield. Distant was becoming his normal mood, and at breakfast the next morning, she felt compelled to find some answers.
Alan?
She spoke as they sat at the table together.
Hmm?
He replied, turning his gaze from the paper he was reading to her. His gaze didn't seem blank to her. It seemed normal, except for some reason, deep within his gaze, something felt off.
Are you alright? I don't know why she accentuates. Are you alright? That's better. She's not trying to seduce him. She wants to make sure he's alright. Right. Get together, Tony.
She asked.
Of course.
He said politely.
Why do you ask? He's just as seductive. It's a very seductive relationship. This is the way the couples just talk to each other, I imagine. Hey, honey. Hi. How's your eggs? Runny. Good. Oh, Poppy. Calm down, Carol. It's just breakfast. All right. Let's see. Is it still me? Oh, he said, why do you ask? You just seem a little off lately.
She replied.
Is everything at work okay?
He kept his gaze level, and without blinking or skipping a beat, he answered,
Everything is good at work. Why do you ask?
His repeat of the why do you ask question seemed mechanical to her.
I was just wondering if there's anything you wanted to tell me,
she said.
Mm-hmm.
He only stared at her, saying nothing. Then he shook his head and said,
Nothing I can think of.
They stared at each other in silence, though Tiffany felt that she was the only one that was uncomfortable. All of a sudden, he said,
I have to go to work.
Stood up and walked away. Tiffany could only sit there and watch him as he walked out of the room and out the front door. While at work, she was unsure if she should make a big deal out of Alan's change in behavior. It wasn't unusual for either one of them to go through different mood swings, but the way Alan was acting, it was almost as if he was slowly losing his ability to focus. Concerned that it might be affecting his work, and to determine if he was only behaving this way with her, she decided to give him a call to see if his mood was any different. She called his desk phone directly, but after several attempts over the span of an hour, she called the front desk receptionist to see if he was in a meeting or out on an appointment.
I'm sorry, Tiffany. You know, every time I hear a receptionist, I can think about the Southern lady with a bun and the glasses at the edge, just like
glasses tip down.
What
pearls.
Do you want? Yeah. So I this is the kind of people I like, kind of like draw on when I do the acts and stuff. Who I try to envision. When I walk into a place, you're not a real receptionist. You don't have a beehive or glasses,
right? The receptionist replied to her inquiry.
Alan quit a couple of days ago. I'm surprised he didn't tell you.
Panic started to fill Tiffany, but she decided to press on.
Do you know if he was acting strange leading up to him quitting?
Tiffany asked.
You know, now that you mention it,
she replied,
he has been acting off recently. I'm just telling you, you're Tiffany now. I thought maybe he was just having some personal issues. But every time I asked him about it, he always said he was fine. Is everything all right, Tiffany? She switched to New Orleans. All of a sudden. My people are all over the place. I'm not sure.
Tiffany replied. And before the receptionist could ask any more questions, she hung up the phone. Tiffany was at a crossroads. She instinctively wanted to confront Alan, and under normal circumstances she would have, but the way he was behaving, she was concerned about the situation possibly exploding with no one there to help her. For the first time since she had known him, she was afraid of him. She decided to act normal that evening and follow him to see where he was going every day, since she now knew he wasn't going to work. That night, she followed him once again as he walked to the same spot in the field, stare up into the sky, and then walk home. I should start doing that. Just
I know, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's like an author's way of making it rain. We don't have money, so we throw book pages in. Strip clubs hate me. Here's a story I just wrote. God, I hate you.
This time, when he left the spot in the field to walk back to the house, she stayed behind and stared up herself to see if she could see what he was looking at, if anything. She didn't see anything. It was just another beautiful night sky. She went back to bed, though she found herself unable to sleep again. She knew the lack of sleep would catch up with her, but she promised herself a good night's sleep if her body would just cooperate for just one more day. The next morning, they sat at the breakfast table again, Alan staring at his newspaper, Tiffany staring at him. Hoping to get a read off of him, she asked,
"Anything special going on at work right now?"
His eyes briefly moved from the paper to her, and then back.
"Nothing special,"
he replied.
"Why do you ask?"
She was becoming frustrated. Something was definitely wrong with him, but she couldn't get a read off him.
"No reason."
She lied.
"I was just curious. You've been acting weird, and I was wondering if something was happening at work that was bothering you. That's all." I'm way too good at that. All right,
way too good.
Someone give me a wig.
If her probing was suspicious to him, he didn't show it. Just like the day before, he put down his paper, stood up, and walked out the front door as if he was heading to work. She waited until she heard his car start, and then walked to the window. Once she was sure he couldn't see her, she ran to her car and began her pursuit. Tiffany knew under normal circumstances Alan or anyone else would have noticed her following them, but she was hoping that he was just as distant and unaware of his surroundings as he had seemed to be recently. She followed him to an abandoned warehouse, but turned a corner and parked out of sight as he came to a stop. As stealthily as she could, she peeked around the corner of the warehouse she was parked at and saw him just in time to see him walk through a door. There was a stack of crates near a window, so she climbed up and slowly looked through to see what Alan was up to. Alan was standing in the middle of the nearly empty warehouse. He was soon joined by 4 other gentlemen, all wearing suits. As far as Tiffany could tell, all the men, including Alan, were just staring at each other. No one seemed to speak. It was all very odd. Tiffany almost fell off the crates when all of a sudden, all 5 men turned and stared right at her. I tried to throw it and landed back on my lap.
Wow. Just need practice, that's all.
My first one. Panic sunk in as she began to quickly climb down the crates. She knew she would be able to get to her car before Alan and the men were able to catch up to her. Once at the bottom, she turned and found herself facing 3 more men in suits. They stood there staring at her, but made no attempt to grab her. Slowly, she tried to inch her way past one of them. As she made contact with the one she was passing, he lifted his hand and grabbed her.
Sorry. I gotta act. I can't sit still, people. You know that. Start acting.
She began to struggle like an animal who found itself caught in a trap. When she tried to cry out for help, the man that was holding her pinched the back of her neck with his other hand, and she instantly blacked out.
Very Vulcan.
Yeah, the Vulcan death. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I tried it on a few people. All it does is get me slapped. It doesn't work. They instantly get angry. That's what it does. It's the angry button in the back of the neck.
The blurriness began to fade, and she found herself lying on the ground in the cornfield, staring up into the night sky. Her husband was the only one who was there with her.
And keep in mind, we live in Ohio, so we have a lot of cornfields.
Plenty of cornfields.
Yeah, I mean, if I lived anywhere else, it could be like, an apple orchard or something like that. But here, it's cornfields. That's a recurring description in a lot of my stories. I wonder where he lives with all that corn. Hence the bourbon. Hence.
Regaining her bearing, she slowly looked around, trying to understand what was happening.
Alan?
She started, turning to face him.
What's going on? I don't know. Apparently she's like, still dazed.
Her mind began to race with 1,000 questions.
Who are these men?
She continued.
Why aren't you at work? Why do you keep walking out here at night?
Alan stood stationary, staring at her with half-vacant eyes. Another blatant fact entered her mind.
It's night?
She asked herself. It was early morning when she had followed Alan. Now it was the dead of night.
Have I been unconscious for over 12 hours?
She thought, her mind struggling to catch up with what was happening. She wanted to jump
Tiffany,
up and
keep
run,
up.
but her whole body ached. Her body felt like it had just gone 12 rounds with Mike Tyson.
12 rounds!
and she was barely able to move, much less jump up.
I use that a lot. 12 rounds of Mike
Tyson.
Has anybody ever gone 12 rounds of Mike Tyson?
Very few.
I think I should say I should say like 2 rounds of Mike Tyson.
Right. Well, he was in the news today. I don't know if you saw that.
Was he?
He beat somebody up on a plane.
Did he bite his ear off?
He probably would have.
He probably would have if he was hungry.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is when you think you lack out, just like, he's back.
Yeah. It looked pretty bad.
I think that used to be a saying, though, 12 rounds like Mike Tyson or something.
Tyson.
It's like,
yeah.
I guess, you can't say Muhammad Ali because, no one goes Muhammad Ali.
Alec continued to stare at her as she slowly lifted herself up.
That's me. Thanks for the help, asshole. I know that tone.
We all do.
I think we all can mimic that really well.
She said once she was standing.
I don't know what's going on with you, but you're scaring me.
He only stared.
I want to go back to the house and talk about what just happened,
she stated, though the longer she stood there, the more the sense of dread settled in. Not getting a response from Alan, she attempted to walk past him. He grabbed her and shoved her back, causing her to trip over her own feet and fall to the ground.
Oh, he's about ready to get his ass kicked.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Still terrified, she mustered all the strength she could, rolled onto all fours, and began to crawl away from him.
That's better. Now he's got his conniption.
Right. Her body suddenly froze in mid-stride, and though she could move her eyes, the rest of her body held the position of her failed attempt of escape. Her eyes were filled with panic, and her muscles were burning with fatigue as she struggled to move. Exhausted, she stopped struggling, and as if someone else was controlling her, she stood up and faced Alan once more. She watched as he tilted his head up towards the sky. Immediately after, she found herself looking up into the sky as well. A strange feeling began to envelop her as she felt an external pull, and she suddenly felt herself begin to float into the air. She looked down only to see her body was still on the ground, staring up at her. It was as if her soul was floating away as her body watched. Still rising, she watched as her physical body dropped its gaze along with Alan, and they both began walking away towards their home. She began to scream, but no sound came out. Once she was so high...
Apparently I was too when I wrote this.
Right.
So high.
Once she was so high that she could no longer discern the house from the rest of the terrain, she looked up to see where she was floating to. Her eyes doubled in size as an alien ship materialized above her. She soon found herself floating within a transparent tube, staring at a strange-looking alien, staring back at her with the same half-vacant eyes as Alan. She saw it push something on a control panel. She was immediately surrounded by light, and then she was gone.
Like that.
The end.
The end. Woo! Man, it feels like college every time we finish, or high school. I didn't really throw the hat in the college. That was kind of like, just mail me a certificate. I'm done with this place. I'm out. But high school, you're like, yeah, freedom. And as you drive back to your parents' house.
Yes. Not so free yet.
Well, thank you so much for helping me read that.
Yeah, my pleasure. That was fun.
We're going to watch one more trailer real quick, and then we're going to come back. We're going to wrap things up. And then, I think and then we're going to do a toast and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and do a little bit more self-promotion real quick. All right. Hope you enjoyed that. Some of that self-promotion. Now, I do have some exciting news for you. So, last night, I received my first shipment. Oh, wrong book.
There you go.
Of my new book, Short Stories of the Mind of Madman, Volume 3. Here, I'm going to walk up here and kind of show it to you. Really happy with the... Oh, let's put it right. It's like backwards. It's going the wrong direction. Here you go. Really happy with the cover of it. As you can see, it's got 25 more short stories on there. Now up to 75 published short stories. So these are the last compilation here of stories I did. So this is on sale now. So if you see me around, let me know. You can also buy a signed copy on my website and buy on Amazon. If you have got this book or any of my other books, please go to Amazon and give myself a review. It goes a long way to help out with those reviews. And also, another announcement is, so, every quarter I do a different charity. So I'll have the ladies coming on in a couple weeks to talk about PB&J. It's a local charity where they make peanut butter jelly sandwiches, make lunches for kids. So we're going to be sponsoring, raising money for that. You don't have to send me anything. I'll have the link as soon as I get it from them. Put in the description below that you can donate to them directly. If you're in the area, you can buy some peanut butter and jelly or spread or things they may need and drop it off to them yourselves. No, and what I'm asking for is to help me donate to them. So, for every new like or new subscriber on YouTube in the second quarter, I will donate $1 to the PB&J Project, up to $100. Every copy of one of my books, I'm now up to 4 books that I sell, will also have $1 donated up to $100. And then I'm also coming out with a peanut butter and jelly specific t-shirt. I don't have it here. I made one, but I thought it might be a little bit too inappropriate. It's a picture of a dog and it says, with a confused look, it's like, it doesn't look like that's a weird place to put peanut butter. But I was like, well, maybe that won't, it's a funny shirt, but maybe that's not one you can really wear to dinner with the parents. So I was like, I might use that or not. But anyways, and every t-shirt for that charity sold will be $1. Up to $100 I'll donate as well too. So you can force me to pay $300 to charity. Instead of gambling it away, like I do with the rest of my money. I'm just kidding. I don't really gamble. But, help me donate that. Also, these t-shirts are also going to be like what I call like eternal like shirts where even after I'm done with this quarter, 50% of every sale will still continue to go to these charities through as long as I have the online store. So just a couple of ways you go donate. Like I said, if you want to go to them directly, I will have the link in the below. But if you do, if you're on YouTube, please give me a subscribe. If you want to read some of my short stories, buy one of my books. It goes a long way to help out and encourage me to write some more short stories. I'm just a poor writer. I'm just kidding. I'm an IT, so I make pretty good money in cybersecurity. But, my writing's not really making money. I like to make money there as well. Michael, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely,
it was a really pleasure having you here. And
thank you.
I'm really looking forward to seeing some more of your work. And, of course, we'll be running into each other quite a bit.
Yeah.
So we'll need to have you on here again at some point to kind of talk about some more projects you got coming up. Maybe next time we'll have you make maybe some equipment or just kind of get some more tips. As like with any business, the more you do it, the more you just kind of learn and accumulate and stuff. So I'm pretty excited to see what kind of ventures you find yourself in. So
thanks, man.
Thank you so much for joining me. So cheers here.
Congrats to your book publishing.
Thank you. And Brian, thanks for being in the crowd.
Brian is my brother from another mother.
Yeah. Very handsome man. It's right over in the corner. You guys are really missing out.
Saw his butt.
Okay, you kind of saw his butt for a second.
So I got to see a little bit of it as he crawled across. So he was very kind, and I like to just walk across. He was like, "I'm gonna be a gentleman. You're on TV. I'm gonna crawl across." But anyway, thanks so much for coming out. Join me, guys. Join me again. I won't have a show next week, but in a couple weeks, I'm going to have the ladies here. We are going to be doing a Cinco de Mayo episode, so we will be drinking margaritas, and I may or may not wear a sombrero. I will be wearing a sombrero, and it's going to be a good time. So we're going to be talking about the PB&J project and their charity through that, and then they're going to help me read a story, and we're going to have a good time like we always do. So again, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much for coming, and everybody, we will see you next week.